So I'm pretty excited to be here with Dean Leffingwell, which is the father of SAFe and also Chief Methodologist Officer of Scaled Agile.
Yeah, that's correct.
So welcome to
Thank you.
Germany.
Thanks for having me.
And we have been seeing each other in March during my SBCT immersion week.
Yep.
Was
that a busy week for you?
Oh yeah.
Your brain still hurt?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, very excited. Was really good. Also to take into my hands the SAFe world.
Yeah, and it's a great time to be with 35 or 40 other people that are on their journey somewhere and interact with real customers. So it's not a laboratory environment. It's a form of Gemba for us for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. So I have a first question for you. So this is your first regional SAFe summit in Europe.
It is. Yep.
And what were your expectations by organizing this?
Our expectation is that there's a substantial momentum in Europe. I mean, Michael has personally helped develop this market. I've been here many times, taught classes in various regions. The model has always been the same. If we can get enough people interested to take an SPC class, we'll come and deliver it. And SPCs change the world. They're change agents. They're people like you that look at the world and say it could be better, and they put their shoulder against that boulder, if you will, and push it down the road. So the market has developed really well. It's our second largest market. I've been back and forth in Scandinavia, Netherlands, Germany, less in Spain, and a little bit in France, a little bit in Zurich over the last few years. So the market has developed well. And I think from the standpoint of the summit, what's satisfying for us is to see the flywheel, see how partners like yourself really take the mission on. We saw the case study from Pole Employ today, how it's affected people's lives and how it improves their ability, for example, to do things like pay unemployment. Well, that's a meaningful thing. So what we do isn't just about, we're lean and agile. We help people build better systems, and those systems are consumed by mankind in general, the general public. So it's a satisfying thing, and to see our small contribution to intellectual property play out in industry is really rewarding. Couldn't be happier.
So then, have you been met your expectation doing this regional SAFe summit?
Yeah. And the other thing that's kind of the intangible is we all go to a lot of summits. The question is, what's the energy like? Right? Do we bring the energy, or do people bring the energy? And this is one where there's incredible amount of enthusiasm and energy from the part of the participants. I've met a number of people who have said, we're adopting SAFe in my company or in my region, and I needed to talk to others who were doing that, and looking very forward to 15 minutes at break. I've talked to probably 50 or 100 or so myself. They're finding each other. They're finding our SBCTs and fellows. All the fellows are here this week, so it's a great opportunity to learn more about SAFe and be part of a community. Nobody wants to do this alone. It's the nature of our industry that we do better work when we do it together, because when we have a common way of working, that tends to replicate, and instead of the Tower of Babel, isolated approaches to Agile or whatever, a common way of working, a common taxonomy, a common noun is an easy way to organize momentum around. So we're very glad to see what's happening here in Europe, and it's a lot of frequent flyer miles that gets us to this point, but the work continues. And now it was fun for me to sit in the keynote this morning and just sit at the back and just listen, not have to talk, just listen to somebody else talk about SAFe. It's really fun.
Yeah, continuous learning.
Yeah.
So,
and I did learn some things. I learned, by the way, she stressed the importance of that community and communication. I mean, that was kind of, in a way, the sweet spot of, once we sorted it out, we communicated, we still do. We built community, we talk to the community, we provide webinars to the community. So her internal outreach, if you will, I think is an example of one of the reasons they've been successful is spreading the word and the challenges, the issues, the whatever is bugging people, getting that on the table, talking about it, and having full visibility of the opportunities and the challenges really helped her transform the culture of that organization.
So I'm pretty sure it's not the first time you heard the next question, but is a question who also our clients are asking us all the time. So when should we expect the new SAFe version coming out?
So the answer is yes. You should expect a new safe version. If there's a scaled agile in existence, there is a version in development, and guarantee that. And you know that I expressed to one of our larger new clients the other day that we're on a journey together. This is not a one-stop shop. It's not like we were trained in that method back when. So we move forward. We don't disclose the release dates, and the reason is that our partners depend on us for their business, and we want to make sure that they're always the first to know and apprised. So as we go forward with any release, we talk to our partners first and let them know so they can prepare their classwork and get their instructors ready. So we're not able to ever to announce the official date, but there will always be a date and there will always be a new release underway.
And we as a partner, we didn't receive any communication so far.
And if you did, you couldn't talk about it anyway. So even if I told you, you have to say the same thing, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So you don't know either.
I don't know.
Even if you know, you don't know.
We don't know. What?
No,
about what?
Exactly.
So another interesting point, you have been presenting this also during the SAFE Summit, some of the new courses that are coming out. Could you just explain us a little bit more about?
Yeah, so I'm pleased that at this point in our maturity, let me go back in time, maybe 6, 8, even close to 10 years, when we were doing kind of ad hoc rollouts of agility at scale. We would approach it with Scrum for teams and then some governance, some mission and vision alignment, some architectural, intentional architecture, and kind of scale up to that point and then kind of wander into the portfolio. But I actually learned Agile as XP. So I was taught XP first. I was beyond being a programmer at that point, but I really wanted to know. I still care about how we build systems. So I learned XP first, and I learned about the incredible discipline associated with that weird word, extreme programming. What's the extreme case of not having enough time to write the test first? So I was enamored with that, and I attended in 2006, I think it was, a session called Agile XP United, when we were trying to figure out, is it Scrum or Agile? This is kind of pre-Flow and Kanban days. And I didn't appreciate the method wars at the time because I saw, I learned XP first. I took Ken Schwaber's Scrum class, and I saw two things that were just super, harmonizing, really great, solid technical coding practices, and coupled to lightweight project management practices that empowered teams to make decisions quick. Well, I have a lean background, so high quality solution development in a model that empowers teams to make decisions quick. That's lean thinking. So I appreciated them both. Well, in my rollouts then, we started with the organizational stuff. You kind of have to start with that first. So we didn't start with, continuous integration, test-driven development. We started with Scrum and taught Scrum teams. Well, after a year and a half, they reach a certain velocity, and then they start asking the question, how can we do better? The answer is you build better systems with better code in our world. So our courses now reflect that. So we've recently announced the first course that we have GA in that queue is the DevOps course. That's been live only maybe 6 weeks or so. We have really good feedback on that already. That course is about value stream, because you when you approach DevOps for a large environment, be it legacy or new, do you boil the ocean or do you figure out what particular thing we want to release more quickly? A value stream notion says, I'd like to shorten the time to market for a thing. Well, what is that thing? And what are the steps? So we launched the DevOps course to good fanfare. It's also one of our latest active learning courses. So it's very much, it's certainly instructor-led, but it's also heavily student participation. You map your value stream. There's no geek books or any fake thing in there. Now, interesting enough, in order to do DevOps, I talked before about technical practices. If you take DevOps to the end state, and that's one of the things we think about with our teams, is that my team, as a feature team, the framework team, we should be able to release. Now, there are certain governance aspects, et cetera, and we work with our INT team to do that. But in order to have the authority to release, you have to be absolutely assured that you're releasing quality stuff. So you can't just have some stickies floating around and say, well, it's supposed to do, here's its intent, here's the intent of that story. When you release it, it has to behave in a certain way on purpose. That takes quite a bit of discipline. So in support of DevOps, or just in support of better quality, is our new Agile Software Engineering course. And that's public knowledge because we're in alpha and beta on that course now. I think we're at, I don't remember exactly, I think we're at, preparing for Alpha 2 right now to test the hypothesis of that course. The link that I think we're beta on that course. Okay, and then in addition, if you want to release more quickly, you have to design systems that can actually do that, and those systems are not generally monolithic. They're composed of things like services that other people create capabilities and features and functions out of. They're composed of individual components that can be released. They're composed of sets of features that can be released. So architecting for releasability is a really big deal. So our SSA course, our Safe System and Solution Architect course, is also under development. So we think about those three main courses. They're all focused on one thing: higher quality software that can be released more quickly through the DevOps pipeline. And then lastly, we've been working a lot in the government. We saw an example here today of application in the French government. In the U.S. government, we have many, many applications, but there's still a lot of work remaining to essentially get permission to be agile inside whatever the DoD or the kind of IT aspects of the GSA aspects of the federal government. So we have a course that's a tipping point course called Safe for Gov, and it just describes how you apply Safe. You don't change Safe. It's not like you don't do DevOps in the government. It's not like you don't need release trains, but how you apply it is different, mostly from a governance aspect. So if you think about the portfolio level, that tends to work different. Funding works different, contracts work different. So that course is also in development right now, and that goes to GA as well this fall.
I think Safe for Government will be one of the most interesting topics in the next.
Did you attend that breakout session yesterday?
No, not. I didn't
so
have time, but I will.
we had the brief introduction, and we just ad hoc through a session together, and we had probably 45 people from the conference come to opine on how they could use it, how they could apply it, how specific it was to the U.S. federal government, how we would create the specializations needed, how in many cases the language barrier is really big. So consequently, if you're going to describe how you work with different types of acquisition roles in Germany, you're probably going to need to describe that in German. So we talked about building, in addition to the course, a landing page, kind of a home page, where we could curate information about successful application of Safe in various, federal or regional or local government. So it was very dynamic. We had 40 people throwing out lots of ideas, and we felt like we really hit a live wire there, which is wow. There's a huge interest in Safe in government here in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. I can just confirm this. So, but looking into the future, so what are your expectations for the near and not so near future? So
we expect to continue to grow and to continue to make an impact. We're a healthy, growing company. Our partners are healthy and growing too. Our partners like you have achieved a lot of good business growth with Safe. The rate of growth is not so critical. We'll certainly see pretty significant growth, and I think it's more just keep on keeping on doing the things we're doing, which is supporting our partners, building the right framework, the best framework we can possibly build at any point in time. It's the best framework we can build. And then I think some of our major IP development is simply better learning, because it's about, the framework is data and it's information. It doesn't teach itself. It's an ad hoc query. So improving our learning practices, being better about adult learning, converting the courses to very much active learning, where you have to figure out what specifically you need them to know how to do when they leave, and that's kind of the active learning part. And then what you need to introduce, they know how to find when they leave, and that's more the instructor-led part. So blending those kind of hybrid learning models, support long-term. One thing is absolutely certain is that a 2-day course in anything doesn't make you a master of that thing. So we want to provide more support online, and we start to think about a more continuous engagement model with anybody that's headed down the Safe path.
That's good. And we are here in Europe, so how important is Europe for Scaled Agile?
It's a huge market. It's our number 2 market, and customers like you are what keeps us afloat. So the reason that you can go to a website and it fires up and isn't all dark is because we're growing around the world, and specifically in Europe with companies like yourself. And Thorsten and I go way back. I remember many years ago we were sitting in Munich over a couple beers and arguing to think about, well, what's the business model? I don't know. And guess what? It's been a really great journey together. So KEGON has been a big part of our success in Europe.
Yeah, thank you. So then a question which is a tradition. let's say, what work-related matters are keeping you awake at night?
Well, one of the things it's not just specific to our enterprise, but I think it's a common problem, is that agility is not a natural state. It's a state that we're learning, and there's a point in time in which that will become the natural cultural behaviors of every enterprise, but it isn't natural now. So as we grow, as we bring new people on, we have to make sure that they're oriented. So we're getting more active about basically training our own people to understand what the working model is, because if we don't orient our people towards our new way of working, they will go to whatever way of working they were taught. And we see the same thing in the industry. You see arts after a while get good, but if they don't get over the threshold, they'll regress, right? You've seen that as well. They'll go back to their standard patterns. So I think the thing that keeps me up, or I think about the most, is how to make this be the other side of the tipping point, where this is the way we work and nobody can possibly regress. We can only move forward from there. So that's a challenge, I think, in every enterprise, large or small. When you hire new people, you've seen lots of release trains that grew and did well, and they brought on half new people, but the half new people didn't go through the same training, and all of a sudden you're back halfway to where you were before. So making sure that we can provide the continuing knowledge and continuing education to keep everybody on the other side of that hill and getting us leaner and swifter, that's what I concern myself with.
Okay. So Dean, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much for the interview.
And
thanks for the opportunity.
Have a safe trip back
Yeah.
home.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thanks.